Thank you for joining us today for Conversations with Dan. Today we're going to be talking to Mark Zeeb, an old friend of mine who grew up in Brazil. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
So, tell me, Mark, were you born in Brazil?
I was in 1977.
In 1977? Wow. You're getting so old.
Time flies.
And where were you born in Brazil?
I was born in Imperatriz. It's a town in the, I guess, kind of central, northern central portion of Brazil.
And what state is that in?
That's in the state of Maranhão.
It's in Maranhão. I thought you were from Maranhão. So what took your family to Brazil?
Well, my parents went down as missionaries. My dad went down first in 1971, and my mom went with a different mission in 1972. They met down there and got married in 1973, and the rest is history.
And you came along in 1977?
1977, yes.
But you have an older sister who came along first.
I do, yes.
But Michelle wasn't born in Brazil, was she?
She was not. No, she was
that.
born while we were on furlough. So.
Right.
While they were on furlough, sorry.
So
I wasn't in the picture.
So you are a person who has grown up in dual cultures. Do you have dual citizenship?
I do, yes. I was born down there, so I have a Brazilian citizenship as well as the United States.
That's really cool. So I remember as a young man who was just out of college and had been raised in America by a traditional American family that I was envious of you kids growing up in a second culture and what exciting lives you had. Do you think there were more pros or cons to growing up in a different culture?
I would definitely say pros, absolutely.
Definitely say pros. So what are some of the advantages?
Advantages? I mean, you learn two different cultures simultaneously, two different languages. Your outlook on the world, on everything is different because you see two sides of two different cultures.
Yeah, you sort of learn that there's two ways to do everything.
Absolutely, yes.
Which is something I learned as a young adult in Brazil. So, what do you think is the most common misconception Americans have about Brazil?
What I've gotten a lot is people think it is a third world country, and they think it's all jungle and dirt roads, and there's no electricity, civilization. Whereas we have, São Paulo, Rio, we have huge cities, many millions of people living there.
Millions and millions of people.
Yes, correct.
São Paulo is one of the largest cities in the world.
It is, yes. Skyscrapers as far as you can see, and a lot of people don't think that. So
the area where you grew up is the more third world part.
It is, yes. In the northern sections, it's a lot of jungle, rivers, and it's the Amazon. So there are sections there with tribes with no electricity, but where I lived in the majority of Brazil, there are roads, paved roads. There's electricity. There's all the modern conveniences. So
yeah, in fact, when we would go on a trip or something where there weren't paved roads, it was exciting.
Exactly.
Like we all thought it was an adventure. So the paved roads were the norm.
Correct.
So what kind of education did you receive growing up in Brazil?
I thought it was a really good one. I mean, the classes were really small. The teachers wanted to be there. And, I would certainly recommend it. I mean, it was college prep basically. So I mean, the classes were hard, and the teachers taught them and taught them well, and failure wasn't really an option there. I mean, if you weren't doing well in a class, the teacher would hold you back, and in the evenings and I spent some time with Miss Dickens working on certain things here and there, but at the end of the day, yes, it was.
Yeah, Miss Dickens was quite a teacher.
She
made
brilliant.
Sure that you got it.
She was
smart.
Brilliant.
Actually, we called her Miss Dickens. She had a PhD. She'd been calling her Dr. Dickens.
We should have, yes.
But you didn't go to AVA at the beginning. At the beginning,
I did not. No, I was homeschooled. Yes, for the first 3 years, and then the first 2 years. And then for my third grade year, I was in the United States, in New Jersey, at Blackwood Elementary. And then I came back, and my fourth grade year was the first year at AVA, where I ended up graduating from.
So I didn't realize you'd been to AVA from fourth all the way through, except for when you came back to the States. So you never attended Brazilian school?
I did not, no.
But I remember that and people, it's hard to explain AVA. Amazon Valley Academy was like a campus with walls.
Yes,
So
it was
like
walled off for security because
Right.
there were robberies all the time. Each house had an alarm on it that you would hit the button and it would sound this siren, and we actually had guards on the campus who would go to whichever house had the alarm going. Our house was never robbed.
So you started going to AVA in the 4th grade. Do you think AVA was the same as attending high school in the States?
No,
obviously the answer is no.
Right.
It wasn't. So what are some ways that it was different?
I mean, the classes were small. There was a lot more involvement. There were group activities, like fundraisers for the high school trip. Each year, the high school would take an epic trip, really. I mean, the one year we went all the way down to the south of Brazil. We rented a bus for 2 weeks and went down there. You were along for that one.
Yeah, we went all the way to Iguazu, which was like a
Exactly.
3,000-mile trip.
Correct. It was very fun.
By bus.
Correct. It was a nice bus.
It was a very nice bus.
We had a great time. But
And it was just us. I mean, the principal had rented the bus for us.
correct, yes.
I think that there was some reason why we got to take such a good trip that year. I think that the value of the Cruzeiro was so low.
That
Yeah.
and it's kind of a contentious thing because the class prior didn't take a very good trip, and so there was
Right.
money left over.
Oh,
For-
really?
Our trip, yes. So
I didn't know that. So, what do you think is one of your best memories of AVA?
all the relationships with people. I mean, we met people from all over the globe. Really, my classmates, were from Japan. I mean, there was Germans, there, Swiss.
Sigrid, who seemed the most American of everybody, was
Correct. Yes,
from Denmark.
Yes, her father was from Denmark and her mother was Brazilian. But I mean, I have friends all around the world right now that
Yeah.
I can keep in touch with on Facebook and email once in a while.
Yeah, it was a really unique experience to
Yes.
get to go to school.
It was a melting
like that.
pot of cultures, really,
Right.
on the school campus. We were in Brazil, and yet it was a melting pot of all these other cultures together. And
It was either missionary kids or what we called business kids who were children of expats living in
correct,
Thailand.
yes.
And it was like teaching school in the 50s. We didn't have any problems. Like maybe
Right,
somebody chewing gum when they weren't supposed to.
correct.
And
There weren't issues with drugs and alcohol.
all of the parents were very involved in their kids'
Absolutely,
lives.
yes.
It
It was probably easy as a teacher, I'm guessing.
It was my first teaching job, so yeah, I couldn't have had an easier teaching job or more fun. So, how old were you when you returned to the States?
I was 18 when I came back.
What was the hardest adjustment you had to make when you returned to the States?
Well, my parents were still down there, so communication with them, we didn't have Skype, we didn't have, email, I would email them every once in a while, but just losing that, the connection with my parents. Yes.
And you came back to the States in '96, right?
I did.
So, email was something brand new.
It was pretty new back then. It was still dial-up modems and stuff.
Right.
And,
Did they even have email at AVA when you came back?
Yes, I would email my parents every once in a while, but all that was just... It was
Right.
brand new.
Because when I was in Brazil, it was before email.
Correct. Yeah.
So it happened right around 95, 96.
Yes.
And what do you miss most about living in Brazil?
Just the school, the relationships with them. The Brazilian people are just so open, outgoing, and friendly. I definitely miss that.
Yeah, Brazilians are wonderful people.
They are. They'll open their home to anybody, and
It doesn't matter how much money they have.
exactly. Yeah.
What was your favorite food in Brazil?
The Brazilian steakhouses, the churrascarias, those are fantastic. They've started to catch on here, and they're very popular. But it's an all-you-can-eat steakhouse. There's a fabulous salad bar with anything you can imagine. It's Brazilian food. It's amazing food.
Yeah, you and I have been to a couple of them in the States.
We have,
went to
yes.
one in Dallas Fogojichon, right?
That was fantastic.
That's one of the best.
That was the best one
But
that I've been to in the United States.
remember when you were a teenager and I was living in Brazil, you could eat at the churrascaria for about $5.
Exactly.
All you could eat meat.
The good ones here are $50 plus.
Yeah, and for one person.
Correct.
So it's a big deal here. All right. Well, thank you for talking to me, Mark. It was great to see you again, and thank you for participating in my project. I appreciate it.